Our TV caravan, traveling in the footsteps of the caravans of old times, reached the Siti Fortress in the previous episode. We are now climbing the Gombori Ridge. The old road was situated south of the modern one, and it ran along the upper ridge. This road is not suitable for cars, so we will continue our journey on foot, and in some places, on horseback. In this episode, we will travel mainly on the Gombori Ridge, and I have to say from the beginning that people who do not walk the Gombori Ridge and do not see the Alazani and Iori valleys from here will be missing out on a lot. There are many beautiful places in Georgia, but the Gombori Ridge is a special natural wonder. We thought that the caravans were going to and fro only in order to get rich. It turns out they were enjoying these landscapes too. Looking at such beauty may cause an addiction to it. This might have been the main reason why these restless people could not stay home. The Gombori Ridge is a true national park with beautiful views, and I am sure it will soon become a favorite place for travelers. The Gombori Ridge has different names in different historical sources: Kaketi Mountain, Siti Mountain, Gombori Ridge, Gombori Ridge. The oldest of these names must be the Kaketi Mountain, although it seems that from ancient times it was also called by another name, Sivi, which means cold. To this day, almost all of the summits on this ridge are called Sivi, Gombori, Tokliauri Sivi, Manavit Sivi, Mount Sivi, and so on. An important fortress on the Ujarma-Cheremi section was the fortress of Siti. The Gombori Pass was protected by the Siti Fortress from the west and the Siti Fortress from the east. The latter also controlled the road to Shuamta and Cheremi. Siti is a Georgian word meaning chamois, and apparently the castle was named after this animal. The Siti Fortress is located on the rocky slope of the Gombori Ridge, overlooking the Turdo Ravine from the top. The fortress, which was once of strategic importance, has been demolished and left in ruins. Anyway, there is nothing to protect and control anymore, and no one lives in the Turdo Ravine today. Only the collectors of dung and mushrooms wander in these dense woods. However, in the past, there was lively traffic here. There seems to have been an important settlement as well. The locals say there were towns in several places here, although we no longer know what this town was called or how these people lived. Everything was swallowed up in the depths of history. It would probably take less than a day for a caravan to travel from Verena to Siti. Probably, they would find shelter somewhere in the vicinity of the fortress and start the long way to Cheremi early in the morning. We climbed the Gombori Ridge. There is such a spectacular view from here. You can immerse yourself in looking at it and never get bored. Our entire route is visible from this place. This is the Kaketi Ridge, and there is the Iori Mountain. Far above, there is Martkopi, although not visible to the naked eye. We came this way. There you can see Ujarma and Borchoma. There is the Verena Forest across this place. Beyond there is Tianeti, and here you can see the Iori Gorge. It is a wonderful view. Lots of caravans have passed here, lots of people. But today, mostly shepherds use this road with their grazing cattle. I have seen many beautiful places in Georgia, but believe me, such a sight is rare. It shows how beautiful our Mother Earth is. I am sure many people will visit this place soon to see this nature and get to know our Earth better. We continue the journey, and here the road splits in two. On the left, the road leads to Shuamta, and on the right, to Cheremi. Historian and geographer Vaktushti Batonishvili explained that its name, Shuamta, the mountain between, because it is located between Sameba Gorge and Tel Aviv. When I was driving to Tel Aviv in the past, I thought it was called Shuamta because it was located between two mountains. Now that we are following this old historic route along the Gombori Ridge, I understand what Vaktushti Batonishvili meant. Shuamta is located exactly halfway between the Siti Fortress and Tel Aviv. The Shuamta Monastery was built in the 5th century during the reign of Vakhtang Gorgasali. Probably, there must have been a settlement around the monastery as well, which was part of the Darial-Khornabuji highway infrastructure. The supervision of the road was traditionally one of the functions of the monastery. It is indicated by the fact that King Teimuraz, in a 1637 deed, imposed a toll on caravans moving on the Gombori Road in favor of the Shuamta Monastery. The caravan that had left the Siti Fortress in the morning would arrive in Cheremi in the evening. The second road that connected the Iori Gorge with the Alazani Gorge also passed through Cheremi. So, there was a lot of traffic in this city, and these roads were the reason for Cheremi's strategic importance. This is why it has been an attractive place since time immemorial. Vakhtang Gorgasali built the city here that controlled the whole region. The city of Cheremi was built, embellished, and was made the center of the whole region by Vakhtang Gorgasali. However, when historical sources tell us that Vakhtang built a fortress or a city, it does not necessarily mean that the king started building a whole city on an empty place. People lived in Ujarma, Cheremi, Tbilisi, and elsewhere long before Vakhtang Gorgasali, and caravan routes were trodden for centuries. Stone Age tools and other artifacts made of flint and stone have been found in Cheremi, proving that people lived here since ancient times. There was a great deal of international interest in the Caucasus Highway, which passed through Georgia. On one hand, this highway caused serious military as well as political and economic threats to Georgia. But on the other, it was also assigned an important geopolitical function. Vakhtang Gorgasali did a great job to keep the Caucasus Highway open to traders and, at the same time, keeping it under the control of the Georgian state. With the grand construction of fortresses, monasteries, and towns from Darieli to Khornabuji, Vakhtang embodied the concept of a safe highway and united the whole project under one umbrella. This is the highway that would eventually lead to the revenue that contributed to the country's self-sufficiency and its cultural and economic prosperity. Cheremi became a strategic point in the second half of the 5th century. Its development was supported by the large trade route connecting the north and south, which followed along the Kaketi Ridge. Today, Cheremi is completely covered with forest, and it is difficult to comprehend the scale of this grand city. The city is surrounded by a ravine on 3 sides, which would probably be 100 to 150 meters deep. It provided natural protection. However, the city was also surrounded by a stone wall. Inside the wall, there are the remains of numerous buildings, palaces, fortresses, storehouses, workshops, and they are all indications that the city was an important political and cultural center. Cheremi was ravaged several times by enemies, and eventually it lost the function of a city. However, one of the main reasons for its decline was probably that the trade route no longer crossed the Gombori Ridge. As a result, the once crowded city eventually turned into a small village. The old road from Jeremy to Kornabuji follows the present-day motor roads. Following this road and appreciating its sights is not a great difficulty, and everyone will manage it themselves. That's why we decided to get back to Tianeti. In previous episodes, we already saw that the central highway coming from Dariali to Jinvali was split in two. One road passed through Zedazeni, Mamkoda, Martkopi, Ujarma, and Gombori along the Kaketi Ridge, and the other road passed through Tianeti and followed the Iori River. Eventually, both of these roads connected at the southern border of Georgia in Kornabuji. We have already followed the main road from Dariali to Kornabuji. The central highway had its branches, and one of the important ones was the Jinvali-Tianeti Fork. The road split into two directions in Tianeti. One road led through the forest town of Kvetera to the Alazani Valley, and the other followed the Iori River, passed through Borchoma and Ujarma, and reached Kornabuji. Today, we will follow the road from Tianeti to Kornabuji. Tianeti has been an important crossroads since ancient times. The roads from the North Caucasus to Persia, used for trade and military purposes, passed through Tianeti. Due to its strategic location, the Georgian kings always considered this place very important. Tianeti was often a gathering place for the army. The area currently flooded by the Sioni Reservoir was once part of historic Kaketi Jaleti. It stretched from Tianeti to the fortress town of Borchoma. Vakhtang Gorgasali built the Episcopal Cathedral in Jaleti, which means it was a crowded place with intensive travel. Indeed, archaeologists have found traces of urban settlements in this neighborhood. Vakushti Batonishvili says that the Iori River's real name is the smaller Alazani. The name Iori emerged because the Alazani bifurcated into two streams, Ori in Georgian. Actually, both the Iori and the Alazani originate next to each other on the Borbalo Mountain, from where they flow a long way. They provide water for a lot of plants, birds, animals, and humans on their way, irrigating huge areas before they finally reunite. These two rivers significantly contribute to the nature of the Kaketi region and, at the same time, are the basis of its economy. We are approaching Ujarma. There is the border of the Erzo Tianeti and Gare Kaketi near Ujarma. This is where the mountain regions end and the lowlands begin. The mountain Iori River turns into a slow-flowing lowland river here. We also decided to travel on the river as the old road led to the riverbank and approached the town from the lower part. We sailed to Ujarma, and it seems that the old road also led to the riverbank, since the fortress town had a central gate on the lower side. We can already spot the walls and the towers of Ujarma. However, only a small part is visible while the rest is covered by forests. Back when the fortress was functional, nearby trees and bushes would have been completely cut down, as the defenders gazing out of the towers needed to control a large area. Today in Ujarma, only the sounds of rustling leaves and the river can be heard, but in the 5th century, the place was full of the noises of medieval city life. We left Ujarma and moved to the Iori Plateau, also called the Kaketi Plateau. This area is distinguished from the rest of Georgian territory by its lack of water and scarce vegetation. It is very hot here in the summer. However, this does not lead to poverty. On the contrary, it is a surprisingly fertile area. This is a grain-growing place, and sheep herding could not exist in Georgia without its winter pastures. The Iori River crosses the plateau in the middle and creates green oases along the whole route. These places feed and provide water for countless animals and birds, and will do so in the future if humans behave wisely and do not harm nature. We are arriving at the Iori Plateau. It is not high, probably 500 to 600 meters above sea level. But the views are amazing. In front of us, there is the Kaketi Ridge. On the left, there are Garegi Mountains. On the right, there is Signagi and Kiziki. Below, there is the village of Kachireti. Beyond the mountain, there is the Manavi Forest, and some other villages can also be seen. It is already dusk. Tomorrow morning, we will head to the Kolagiri Monastery complex, which is located in the extreme east of Garegi on the banks of the Iori River. Lower down, there is the Iori Oasis. No camera can convey the beauty and colors of nature, and one must see this with his own eyes. The name Kolagiri was coined later, and the previous name of this place is unknown. The Kolagiri Monastery is cut into the rock on the right bank of the Iori River on the edge of the Garegi Desert. In front of the monastery, there was a highway leading from Tianeti to Hornabuji. Depending on the location, Kolagiri also might have a military function. Facing Kolagiri, on the left bank of the Iori, there is another monastery complex cut into the rock, which is called Large Caves. Without the permission of Kolagiri and the Large Caves, neither enemies nor friends could pass this road. Most of the residential cells in Kolagiri have been demolished. The caves are bare now. Only part of the church survived. The wall paintings still look good, but they are in worse condition now than 30 years ago when I first saw them. One branch of the road leading to the Iori Valley passed through the Garegi Desert. This was the shortest route for the caravans heading to Rustavi. They could rest in small oases and replenish water and other supplies here. Later, due to various catastrophes, this road lost its function as a caravan route, and now it is used only by shepherds. However, we must mention that there are very interesting tourist routes here, and this place is distinguished by its unique nature. We are on our way to Hornabuji, but of course, we will take advantage of the occasion and visit Garegi. We will follow the historical road connecting the Iori Gorge and Rustavi. On the border of Gari Kaketi and Kartli, near the middle course of the Iori River on the right bank, there is an extensive hilly massif called Garegi. There are no forests in Garegi, and you will rarely come across a tree here. The hills are mostly covered with shrubbery. There is almost no water either. Only during heavy rains do small rivers flow into the ravines. However, you must not be surprised if all of a sudden you come across such a lake. It fits in perfectly with the local landscape. It is unbearably hot in Garegi in summer, and the grass is completely dry. However, in autumn and spring, especially after the rains, when the grass is green and nature is colorful, this place does not remind you of a desert. This place was a desert, but it does not mean that it was an empty and useless area. These vast fields served as winter pastures without which livestock in the mountains could not thrive. Therefore, Garegi has been an integral part of the unified economic space of the mountains and the plains since ancient times. Millions of years ago, the sound of waves could be heard here. We are now stepping on the former ocean floor, and this is evidenced by even this stone which abounds here. There are layers of shells and mollusks in this small stone. Here is another stone like this, and there are many more, which means that the soil we are touching now belongs to the period when the whole Caucasus was underwater. The soft rock formation contributed to the development of Garegi's architecture. People cut the whole city into the rock. It was both comfortable for living and convenient for defense. People have lived in the Garegi area since ancient times. Archaeologists have found settlements and workshops where iron ore was used dating back 60,000 years. In the 16th century, one of the 13 Assyrian fathers, David, later called Garegi, settled in a mountain cave and founded the first monastery here. Shortly afterward, monasteries were founded by his disciples, Dodo and Lukiane, and large monastery constructions flourished in Garegi. We continue our way through Iori Gorge. The path leads to Chachuna and Dali Mountain Reservoir. Then we will cross the Taribana Valley and reach Hornabuji. In the past, this route would have been quite easy and convenient for the caravan. The water was not sparse, and there was enough food for animals in the swamp. I have been to the Chachuna area several times, but so far no one had told me there was a grand complex cut into the rock near the reservoir. Satorye is a city cut into the rock. It had to be part of Garegi agriculture according to the style of construction. It is located in the extreme south and represents the first defensive barrier in the Iori Valley. On the road from Satorge to the Terabana Valley, there is the Ellia Monastery. Ellia Monastery is located in Dedoplitskaro, near the fortress town of Hornabuji. Due to its location and nature, it is probably one of the most beautiful places in Georgia. As the archaeological excavations indicate, a temple was already built here in the 6th century. In 1858, Alexander Dumas, who was traveling across Georgia, visited Dedoplitskaro and wrote about the Elia Monastery. In the 6th verst distance from the Hornabuji Fortress, there is another mountain named Ellia Mountain, with a saltwater lake at its base. A bell tower is built in a wide cave, cut in the middle part of the mountain. The residents often visit here. In this cave, the raven carried food for the prophet Elijah, who left his cloak for his disciple Elisha, who had ascended from the top of the mountain to heaven. According to legend, a secret tunnel was dug from Elia Monastery to Hornabuji Fortress. If this is indeed the case, then our TV caravan has almost reached its destination. However, we still have one interesting route to go. In the next episode, we will walk through the Alazani Valley from the fortress town of Kvetera to the glorious fortress town of Hornabuji.